The entire NBA world expected the Houston Rockets to chase another guard, another creator, another perimeter engine to balance their young roster. Yet the rumors coming out of Houston point to something far more unexpected. Why would a team with one of the deep center rotation suddenly start sniffing around Boston for another big? What is the logic behind this curiosity, and why does it point directly to Neemias Queta? This is where the plot starts to twist. At first glance, it makes no sense. Houston already has Alperen Sengun, Steven Adams, and Clint Capella, three names who could start for a huge portion of the league. But when you dig deeper, contradictions start to surface. Adams remains inconsistent with his availability, Capella is losing ground in Udoka's trust, and Sengun cannot carry the entire interior load across an 82-game grind. Something is breaking in the system, and the Rockets know it. That opens the door for a surprising pursuit. The warning sign came against the Utah Jazz, a team stuck at the bottom of the standing. Houston collapsed on the board, losing the rebounding battle and dropping a winnable game. Capella played only 9 minutes. Adams was unreliable again, and Houston looked exposed in an area that defines their identity. This single moment created a wave of internal concern. If the Rockets cannot rely on their veterans now, how will they survive a playoff series when every possession becomes a war? Udoka's refusal to trust Capella, despite his rebounding dominance, raises serious questions. Is there a hidden issue behind the scene? Maybe conditioning, maybe a decline in decision-making, maybe chemistry? Or is Houston preparing for a future where Adams is barely available and Capella no longer fits the pace of their young core? These are uncomfortable questions, and they place Queta right at the center of a potential turning point. Now comes the most controversial angle. Is Boston giving Queta bigger minutes at strategic times to raise his trade value before the deadline? Some insiders believe the Celtics are quietly shopping him, betting on the league's desperation for reliable center. Others say Boston simply trusts his growth. But if the Rockets call, the Celtics will listen, and the asking price might surprise the market. The psychological game between front offices is heating fast. What if the quietest roster move of the month ends up reshaping Boston's long-term depth chart in a way nobody saw coming? The Maine Celtics just picked up a former Brooklyn Nets starter, and the implications run far deeper than a simple G League signing. This is not just a depth add, it is a potential spark in a system already preparing for future trades, injuries, and rotations. Stay close, because this story gets far more complicated than it looks. On the surface, adding Keon Johnson to the main roster feels like a routine G League adjustment, but when a 23-year-old former starter with scoring upside suddenly becomes available, smart organizations look twice. Johnson averaged double-digit points for a rebuilding Nets squad and showed flashes of real creation ability. The question is simple. Why did Brooklyn let him walk, and why did Boston rush to grab him? The Nets entered the season with roster pressure after drafting 4 first-rounders and absorbing contracts through multiple off-season deals. Someone had to go, and Johnson became the odd man out. It was a move that shocked many observers because a player who started 56 games rarely hits the market with no return. Add the fact that he entered camp recovering from injury, and the mystery grows. Here is where the story takes a twist. Johnson is not just a depth, he is a controllable player with starting experience at a position Boston constantly monitored for long-term insurance. Wings with size and shot creation potential become assets at the trade deadline. If he thrives under Phil Pressey, Boston could leverage him as part of a future deal, or even elevate him to a two-way slot if injuries hit. The front office loves optionality, and Johnson gives them exactly that. Drafted by the Clippers, moved for Robert Covington and Norman Powell, later involved in the Damian Lillard mega deal, then carving out time in Brooklyn. Every stop revealed flashes of a player who just needed stability. Boston's development system is built for players like him. If he breaks out in Maine, the Celtics gain a low-cost weapon, while other teams scramble for mid-season reinforcement. The upside is far higher than the headlines admit. What if the move that saves the Boston season is a trade nobody thought was possible? The team sits at 9-8, the pressure is rising, and the front office knows the window can collapse fast. Brooklyn's Nicholas Claxton has emerged as a top target. He brings length, mobility, and passing, a blend rare for modern center. His averages jump off the page with 14 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists. Add elite rim defense, and he becomes a perfect match for Boston's system. The timing matters. Claxton is in his prime and fits both the present and the long-term plan. This is where the intrigue deepens. A proposed package includes Anthony Simon, a future second-rounder, and a top 5 protected first. It is a hefty price, but the logic is clear. Boston wants to regain the front-court strength it lost. Simons is valuable, yet the roster already leans heavy in guard creation. Moving him would tighten roles and elevate defensive balance. The real debate is whether Claxton's impact outweighs Simon's scoring. Claxton's contract is expensive, which forces Boston to rework its cap strategy. Bringing him in reduces future flexibility and may push the team into deeper tax territory. Yet the front office has shown willingness to bend the financial rules when a contender-level move appears. The real tension is whether Claxton is a foundational piece or a temporary bridge, while evaluating Boston's next core around Tatum. If Boston moves Simon, the guard rotation compresses and forces the team to consider additional adjustments. A Claxton deal might trigger another move involving bench wings or draft capital. The front office rarely makes isolated trades. This could be step 1 toward a more dramatic roster recalibration, aimed at a Tatum-centric contender. The idea seems bold, but the pattern aligns with past seasons. What if one quiet phone call between Milwaukee and Boston could reshape the entire Eastern Conference? The pressure around Giannis is reaching its boiling point, and the Celtics are trapped in a seesaw. Giannis said he cannot remember the last time he dropped 7 in a row, and his tone revealed more frustration than leadership. When a superstar starts to question direction, front offices start scrambling. That is why the idea of adding an explosive scorer did not come from nowhere. It came from panic. And panic makes teams reckless. The Celtics remain well above the tax line, and without Jayson Tatum for the season, pressure grows to cut salary. Simon sits on a massive expiring deal. Trading him would immediately open financial breathing room and help the team slide under threshold. Ownership understands the long-term saving, yet the dilemma is tricky. Moving Simons reduces firepower on a roster already fighting to stay competitive, and rivals smell opportunity. According to league insiders, the Bucks monitored Simons all summer. They kept tabs, called around, and studied Boston's cap stress while preparing for the chance Giannis might finally hit his breaking. They viewed Simons as a spark, a scorer who could fix their slump. But here is where the negotiations stalled. Boston did not want to attach a first-round pick to move his contract. That single detail buried the talks for now. Simon's value could climb as teams panic near the deadline. Boston knows contenders crave offense. They also know his contract becomes more attractive every day it approaches expiration. By refusing to include picks, the Celtics signal patience. They want leverage, they want options, and they want to control the narrative in a season where everything feels unstable. The front office is gambling that waiting creates pressure on everyone else first. So here is the question. Is Boston playing chess while everyone else plays catch-up? Or are they risking another wasted season by hesitating to act? Should they trade Simons now and escape the tax? Or wait for the perfect offer and risk losing leverage? Drop your take in the comments. And stay ready for the next episode, because the Simons saga is only the first chapter of a much bigger Celtics storyline.